meeting to order tonight, and the first item of business I'd like to share is Steve Long, whose term expired on July the 1st of this year, called and wanted me to convey to our board and to our administrative team how much he enjoyed working with us and serving with us, and I told him I would certainly convey that and wanted to. And I know we all joined together in thanking him for the time that he was with us and all that he did. So I wanted to do that. And then the next step is to welcome our newest board member. Stephen McNally is here with us, and before he can vote, he's got to be sworn in. So Mr. McNally, if you will come this way.
Yep.
And if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Stephen McNally,
I, Stephen McNally,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Director of the Clinton Utility Board
of the office of Director of Clinton Utility Board
of the City of Clinton, Tennessee,
of the City of Clinton, Tennessee,
which office I am about to assume,
which office I'm about to assume,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the State of Tennessee.
and of the State of Tennessee.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. You are in, and if you will sign right here, and then you are ready to vote with us in just a few minutes.
Welcome. Thanks. Glad you're here.
Is there anything you want to say as the newest member?
Not much. I'm just happy to have the opportunity to serve and learn. I appreciate the tour and the information that's been shared, so it's been super helpful to bring me up to speed. So thanks for having me.
Well, we welcome you aboard. I know you will be a great asset to our team here. And then the next step is election of officers, and we will start with chair, and then we will do vice chair. So the floor is now open for nominations for the office of chair of the board.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Ms. Vicki Violet to repeat as our board chair again, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations? Do we have a second to that? I would be happy to serve if that's what the board wants, but do we have a second to that?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes, and I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve, and I look forward to doing that again. And then we move to our vice chair, and I would like to nominate Steve Clapp as vice chair and to continue the good work he's done in the past is in that position. Any?
Second.
Okay, and a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we have our vice chair.
Ma'am, appreciate it.
Willing to serve?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Glad to do it.
Okay, now we move to our public comment session, and obviously no one is here for that, so we will move on to the next item of business, which is our approval of minutes, and we've all had a chance to look at those. Do I hear a motion for approval
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any comments as far as changes or amendments or anything? Okay, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that passes also. And then we move on to the vouchers. Mr. Fay, will you explain those to us?
Yes, ma'am. We always list everything on a voucher that transpires in terms of financially each month, and we list those things we write checks for and everything else. They're a historical document, and obviously we keep all of the supporting documentation with that. But there's nothing in here that is not routine, or there's nothing that I feel like I could draw or should draw your attention to. Dudley, are you good with that statement?
Everything, yes.
So this is pretty routine. I recommend the board approve the vouchers as submitted.
Okay, do I hear a motion for approval?
So move.
And second?
Second.
Any questions from any of us to our administrative team?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that it passes also. And now onto the monthly reports. Mr. Fay, will you share with us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to speak to the electric department. We have moved into a very positive position. We are coming out of the maintenance, high maintenance costs that we've suffered through this year with the storms. We're in a positive position this month of $127,000 in electric. We also are in a positive position of $3,300 in water, while we anticipate a positive month next year, it will be not enough to lift us from the 1.1 million in storm damage that we had to, that we suffered this past year, and we should be in a very positive position in the water and sewer. And Dudley, I know you want to make additional comment to that.
I just say I'm looking forward to July, because that will start reset us, and then I won't look so bad on my forecast. And for Stephen's sake, we call, even though it's a budget, we call it a forecast, because as Greg always says, when we run out of money to fix lines, we can't just stop. You know, we have to do whatever has to be done, and the weather controls pretty much what happens with us. And just like the weatherman can't predict this weekend correctly, it's really hard to predict a full year. So there's a lot of guesstimation and historical analysis to come up with our sales less power cost. We feel pretty good about what our expenses are going to be, but what we can't predict is these major storms that roll in. And unfortunately, as Greg told you yesterday, our major storms this year just hit Clinton, and when that happens, you don't get any FEMA money. For you to get FEMA money, it has to be a big statewide kind of thing. So we didn't get any help on that, but we're looking forward to July next year. We'll put it that way. That's all I've got.
Start over. Okay, do I hear a motion for approval of the monthly reports?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And any of us have any questions for our leadership team? Okay, all in favor of approval of the monthly reports, say aye. Aye. And that passes also. And we don't need approval for the project reports, but we would like information, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Manager.
Thank you. Stephen, what we do on the project status is major work orders that we track. We try to keep a running list of those for the board, and that way they know where we are. This one happens to be almost a $350,000 work order in electric 1554, and we have completed. We were just starting this. This is the new conductor that we're going to put on Medeiros, Forest, and McAdoo Street, and it will be about 1.5 miles of number 6 copper primary. We talked about the conductor. We go through the process of identifying all of the weak areas that we can, especially if there's a problem in that, and also gives us our ability in Flizzer as we do replace these lines. Todd's very sensitive to make sure that we're close to the road to where we can hit them with a bucket truck, and also that the conductor is sufficient in order to help him do switching in a Flizzer activity. Is there something you want to say on this project here, Todd?
No, sir. It's just a upgrade of just aged small wire over here, kind of on the hill over here, that's just in need of replacement.
Thank you.
And we anticipate probably kicking off on this probably next week.
And the water, we're tracking the reservoir over there. This is at Aspire Park, and we've been working with the foundation on some color schemes over there that I think they're quite pleased with, and we're very satisfied with. And Greg, is there anything, I know that we're finished the project, we just haven't assigned all the cost to it yet.
Exactly, and the tank is back online. It's back in part of the distribution system, so it's all, 1 million gallons is back online for the water
Great.
supply.
That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Okay, any questions about that? Okay, then we move on to the approval of work order 1595.
In the electric department, and it's going to replace about 1/8 of a mile of single-phase. Conductor is number 4 ACSR primary cable and the neutral, and we'll be doing a 3-phase 1 0 all aluminum cable, area cable is going to replace that, and is it Chrisman? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
Chrisman Road in Claxton area, and it is very heavily loaded. It's a single-phase line, and we're not happy with the performance of it. So that's what identified this for an upgrade. We had a budgeted of $325,000, which now again is almost 18 months ago that we budgeted. Now this is our current budget.
Yes, sir.
And after we ran the numbers through, we find we'll be able to do that. We were very pleased at $295,000. as opposed to $325,000. So it's about a $30,000 reduction in what we anticipated the cost to be. And I recommend the board approve work order 1595 for $295,075.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
Can I ask a question before?
Sure.
The, and I'm sure there's a great explanation for this, but the adder for hot work, can you, since I'm new, do you mind to
That's
explain that?
great. You know, anytime we work hot, it costs more.
Right.
We can't then align that way. We continue to provide service. I know Service Electric, and especially when I was at Appalachian Electric, and they would do hot work. What they would do is whatever it was that they could take offline, if it worked hot, it was double. They just doubled whatever it was. You want to speak to?
No, so it just gets down to how much of the line, like on a major project, how much of it is hot work they're gonna have to do, and obviously, like Greg said, that just slows the progress down. So there's an adder, if this was all just a brand new line, nothing in a clean field, we could do it for the 25% less than this, but now we gotta work around the existing facilities, there's an adder to that. And sometimes that adder will vary just depending on how complex the job is. So that's just part of the kind of the estimating process we go through.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
an effort to minimize the inconvenience to the customer to do it hot. It elevates the safety factor, so that really slows everything down.
Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I think, it sounds like it's just mostly schedule contingency, even though there's contingency, just because it's probably gonna slow it down.
It is, and
Yeah,
it is,
and it varies.
again, it's an estimate.
Yeah.
It's when you get into that, how much longer we think it's gonna take since it's hot.
But part of it's subbed out work, though?
This will be done by our own forces.
We do
So-
most of that, because again, if you sub it out,
Right.
that cost goes.
Right, so what this will do is give you, you're saying because of the delay, you got some extra labor costs in it probably too, because
Right.
you have to work it hot.
Just additional labor costs involved. And typically on these major capital projects that come to the board, and we're kind of on a timeline here, we typically do those with our own forces. We do, contract crews do some pole replacements and smaller jobs where if they get pulled off to a storm and they're somewhere in Louisiana for a month and a hurricane comes through, we still keep these projects going.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion for approval for this work order?
So moved.
Okay, and second?
Second.
And I think we've asked our questions, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. And that passes. Okay, now that we're down to approval of bad debt write-off.
You know, I always like to refer to the bad debt king on the other end. And he can talk some about flex pay and everything else, because, I mean, it's something that we're proud of, and the flex pay aspect of it is something that Dudley designed, and it's really been not only helpful to us, he worked that through the tech board at CSA, and that's been
Right, we were, and it's because of our robust system with the AMI and so forth, we were able to offer flex pay, which is really a prepay system. And instead of a customer doing like you do with your bill, where they come in, they pay a deposit, and then at the end of the month, we read the meter, and then we send them a bill, and then they have so many days to pay, and then when they don't pay, they get a late charge. What happens in that situation with a lot of people, they get behind, and they get themselves in a hole, and they can't recover. So they end up paying fees. They end up paying trip fees where we leave them a note. They end up paying late fees because they're late. They end up paying reconnect fees to get them hooked back on. This is an automated system that works really well. And just to give you an idea of where we're at now, we have 2,198 customers on that. Now, you think, well, that's not that many, but that's probably saturated our residential, the people that are going to get on that, because you're not going to get on it. Steve Clapp's not going to get on it. Vicky's not going to get on it. We're not going to get on it because we like the traditional billing. These people know exactly what they use every day. They put money into their account, and every day it deducts it out. So they know exactly where they stand.
like gas in a car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how we sell it, like gas in a car. And that way, when they get cut off, there's no late fees. They pay, they can pay online, they can pay at that kiosk, they can pay at the front counter, over the phone, and within about 15 minutes, it automatically hooks them back on. And again, that goes back to our smart grid system to be able to do that. And most utilities, like KUB and some of our other neighbors that don't have smart grid systems, can't offer this program. So what that,
Been a big help to the ones that are financially strapped. Because what Dudley did is he determined, and it frustrates us with helping these people, because we see them paying late charges and trip fees, and I mean, they owe $48 and they're paying $25 in fees, you know? So we calculated that it's as much as a month over the 12-month period of time. They're paying, we could get a free month with what they're paying in fees. So this has allowed them to better budget in order not to pay these additional fees. And they love it. It's worked out really well, and it has done tremendous to what our write-offs would be. As you see, we were over $300,000 in write-offs, and now we're dropped all the way down, and that's through COVID and everything else.
right.
Go ahead, Doug.
Right. So it keeps them from digging a hole they can't get out of. Because when they get into a hole where they owe the utility, they owe the rent, they owe the cable company, then it's cheaper to move than it is to pay their bills. This helps them to stay where they're at, and it also helps them conserve energy, because they know what they're using. When they get down to, they can set their alert to what they want. Let me know when I'm down to $15, and they'll get that alert. And then now they're going, well, why are all these lights on in the other room that we're not in? Well, we got 3 TVs on in the house when there's only 2 of us living here. You know,
And it's cheaper and it's easier to borrow $20 from Papaw than it is to borrow $600 from Papaw.
So our total write-offs, as you can see, we started the program in 14, and the first year it didn't have that much impact. But as you can see, it just, over the years, it's just really knocked that down. So that right there is the total write-offs. And then this is what we recover, because we'll set them up where we can get some of that back. We'll set them up on a payment plan. And then the net, so there's your net write-offs. And it's ticked back up this year. I think part of the reason it's ticked back up is because the landlord thing has gone away now. Now the landlords can kick them out. For a while there, they couldn't kick them out, so they stayed. But now the landlords, so now if they can skip, they're going to hit us. But the people here aren't the FlexPay customers. That's just the impact the FlexPay's had on the total write-offs. So really, you're at 0.068% of your total sales. That's 68 cents a thousand. That's something to be pretty proud of. Not many businesses can say that. So anyway, and then the detailed list of everybody, and I won't show it in case somebody can zoom in and see it on TV, but the detailed list of who they are is attached. So that's all I've got.
That is such a good program, and it's real unusual for us not to see people coming during this meeting to the kiosk to pay that off, so kudos to you,
Thank you.
Dudley, for making all that happen. Okay, any questions anybody has for that? Okay, we need a motion for approval of the debt write-off,
So moved.
and second?
Second.
And all in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes? And that brings us to other business, Mr. General Manager?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. You know, you may recall, last month, I sent an email concerning the meeting that Todd and I had on June the 20th, where we hosted 14 representatives from TVA and 5 from EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute. And the phrase I now take to the grave with me is when they said that they were blown away with what we were doing here. But following that meeting, and this past Monday, TVA organized a DVR workshop. Now, this is dynamic voltage regulation and reduction, where they invited 7 LPCs out of the 153, 7 out of the 153, which they identified as potentially having some understanding and expertise that they could contribute. In other words, the ability to regulate voltage and provide a demand response. Given the fact that CUB has designed and demonstrated a fully functional virtual power plant with DVR and the ability to provide a dispatchable demand response, Cub quickly became the ideal model for the valley, which we agreed to help them with. Now we're working on a structured pathway to provide a win-win for TVA and the LPCs, which is going to enhance the public power model in the valley. In addition, Van Holzenbach, and I know I pronounced that right because I had it 3 times, whose office is in Georgia, contacted, and he's with EPRI, he's the technical executive for distribution operations and planning for EPRI, contacted Todd and asked him if he would be willing to present at their next meeting that they're having, that EPRI's hosting, that is helping utilities that are just now investigating employing AMI, which is this advanced metering infrastructure, which is step 1 of the staircase to get up to virtual power plant and dynamic voltage regulation. And CUB obviously has had AMI since 2005. So we're lending our expertise out in order to help the valley and the public power model with some of the questions, because Todd can not only offer a business model that will help them in the initial AMI, but show them once you start in this technology, then all of the adders that can come to that, which will lead to a virtual power plant, and then hopefully one day lead to the FLISR, and that way you help the quality of service to their customers. So I wanted to share that with you. We're working really hard on that. They're very much interested, TVA is, in getting the structure necessary to start laying out to these other LPCs. Here's the pathway forward for you to come up technology-wise, and not only will you help your system, but you'll also overall help the valley. The next great thing is the safety report. We received the results of the safety audit, which was conducted on June the 30th. And that has over 300 specified and specific compliance tests, and CUB achieved a perfect score. Now, according to the auditor, I've got a quote from him, and I've got that here if anybody's interested in looking at it. But I thought the quote was very telling, and I appreciated it. Congratulations on a perfect score on your 2023 safety audit. CUB has scored perfect on 3 of the last 4 audits. A perfect score is quite an accomplishment, and CUB should be very proud of perfect scores. CUB consistently scores well on safety audits and has never had over 4 deficiencies noted on the checklist since 2012. So very good. And one of those deficiencies I shared with Stephen yesterday was the tolerance on the wheel on a grinder where it laid on the, it has a shelf it lays on, can be no more than a quarter of an inch.
I think an eighth of an inch.
An eighth of an inch, and
tolerance.
ours was at a quarter of an inch.
Ours at a quarter.
And that was, so I mean,
That
that's
was
how.
last year.
That was last year. So, yeah, we didn't have that. I told them to get a new machine if we had to. Next month, we'll be doing an annual review of our self-funded health program, as we do every year, to keep you up to speed with that. And that, unless someone has a question, Madam Chair, is all I have.
Okay, any questions on that? Anything, Mr. Clapp, you want to add?
No, ma'am.
Mr. McNally?
Nope.
Got anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I think that concludes the meeting, and the meeting is adjourned.